In everyday life, we often blame aging whenever we forget something. You misplace your keys, can't recall the name of an old friend, or walk into the kitchen only to forget what you were planning to do. These moments can be perfectly normal as we grow older. But sometimes forgetfulness isn't just senior moments, it can be an early warning sign of dementia. Did you know that every 65 seconds, someone in the United States is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the most common form of dementia? This number continues to rise, making dementia one of the leading causes of lost independence among older adults. What's even more concerning is that the early signs are often overlooked or dismissed. Patients and their families may assume it's just a natural part of aging and only seek medical help when the condition has already advanced. By then, the chance for effective intervention is greatly reduced. What's important to understand is that dementia is not a single disease. It's an umbrella term for conditions that affect memory, thinking, language, and even social abilities. And in the early stages, it doesn't erase your memory or independence completely. In fact, the initial changes are usually very subtle. But if recognized early, you and your doctor can take action to slow its progression, preserve quality of life, and make thoughtful plans for the future. In this video, we're going to uncover 10 early signs of dementia that you should never ignore. This isn't meant to create fear, but to give you knowledge and control. You'll learn how to tell the difference between normal age-related forgetfulness and the changes that need medical attention. You'll also see why each sign matters, how it usually appears, and how it can affect your daily life. So let's begin this journey. To better understand dementia, to recognize the early warning signals, and to give yourself and your loved ones the chance to live a healthier, more independent, and more fulfilling life in your senior years. The very first sign, and often the one people notice most, is memory problems. We all forget things sometimes, but in the early stages of dementia, forgetfulness takes on a different and more serious pattern than ordinary age-related lapses. Think about occasionally forgetting where you put your keys, or taking a few extra seconds to recall a friend's name. That's usually harmless and doesn't disrupt life much. But with dementia, the person often forgets things that happened just moments ago, like a conversation from 5 minutes earlier, a meal they just ate, or an important appointment they already wrote down. It's not only forgetting, they may also repeat the same question or story over and over without realizing they've said it before. What's striking in the early stage is that long-term memory often remains intact. Someone may vividly recall events from 30 or 40 years ago, yet have no memory of what took place earlier that same morning. This contrast can easily mislead families into thinking, well, he still remembers the old days just fine, so everything must be okay. In reality, this is one of the earliest and most telling signs of dementia.
Memory problems don't just frustrate the person experiencing them, they also affect the entire family. Many people begin to feel anxious or embarrassed, gradually avoiding social activities for fear that their weakness will be exposed. Some try to cover it up by keeping endless notes, sticking reminders all over the house, or relying too heavily on loved ones. But when these memory lapses become repetitive, they slowly chip away at independence, from managing work and finances to handling simple daily routines. If you or someone you love is starting to have repeated memory problems that interfere with daily life, don't assume it's just normal aging. This may be one of the very first signs of dementia, and seeing a doctor early can help distinguish between harmless forgetfulness and true cognitive decline. The next sign you need to watch for is difficulty completing familiar tasks. And this isn't about learning something new or complex, it's about everyday activities that have been second nature for years. Imagine this. Someone who has cooked for their family for decades suddenly becomes confused when preparing dinner. They may forget steps in a familiar recipe, leave out key ingredients, or even forget how to turn on the stove. Or a person who once managed finances with ease might begin making mistakes like paying the same bill twice, overlooking due dates, or struggling to understand a bank statement. Tasks that once felt automatic now seem confusing and unfamiliar. In the early stages of dementia, these changes often unfold quietly. At first, the person may simply take longer to finish tasks or need intense concentration for things that once came easily.
But over time, the confusion and missed steps become more noticeable. They may stop midway through an activity, unsure of what they were doing, or feel overwhelmed by even the smallest tasks. Another common example is driving. A person might forget the route through a familiar neighborhood, misinterpret traffic signals, or lose confidence behind the wheel. This not only creates personal frustration, but can also pose real safety risks. It's important to highlight the difference. Difficulty with familiar tasks is not the same as occasional minor mistakes. Anyone can forget to add salt while cooking or miss a bill payment once in a while. But with dementia, these difficulties happen repeatedly, worsen over time, and directly affect a person's ability to remain independent. After memory problems and struggles with familiar tasks, another early sign of dementia that families often notice is language difficulties. And this isn't just the occasional tip-of-the-tongue moment we all experience. It's persistent, repeated trouble communicating in everyday conversations. People with dementia often experience something called anomia, difficulty finding words. They might be speaking normally and then suddenly stop, struggling to recall even the simplest words like pen or chair. Instead of naming the object, they describe it in a roundabout way. The thing you write with, or the thing you sit on. At first, family members may find this endearing, but when it happens repeatedly, it quickly becomes a real barrier to communication. It's not just word finding. People with dementia may also lose the ability to keep up with the flow of conversation.
They might ask the same question that was just answered, wander off topic midway, or become confused when several people are talking at once. Group conversations, which used to bring joy, now leave them feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and often silent. Reading and writing also become more difficult. Someone who once enjoyed reading the newspaper may find themselves rereading the same passage again and again without grasping its meaning. When writing, they may struggle with spelling, repeat words, or have trouble organizing their thoughts into clear sentences. These changes aren't due to poor eyesight or shaky hands. They stem from the brain's increasing difficulty in processing language. The psychological impact is also significant. People with dementia often feel embarrassed when they can't express themselves clearly, become irritated when interrupted, or gradually withdraw from social interactions altogether. Family and friends may notice that conversations grow shorter, more fragmented, and less fulfilling. It's important to distinguish this. Forgetting a word once in a while is nothing to worry about. But if it happens frequently and begins to interfere with everyday communication, it may be an early sign of dementia. Support from doctors and speech therapists can help patients regain some confidence in communication while also teaching families how to listen and engage more effectively. Sign 4. Disorientation to time and place. We all get confused about dates or forget what day of the week it is, but for someone with dementia, this confusion is frequent, persistent, and directly disrupts daily life.
In the beginning, a person may lose track of the time of day, thinking it's early morning when the sun has already set. They might believe they're in a different season, wearing heavy coats in the middle of summer or light clothing in winter. What seems like small mistakes actually reflect the brain's growing difficulty in processing the flow of time. More serious is the loss of orientation in familiar places. Someone who has shopped at the same neighborhood market for decades may suddenly forget the way home. Others may feel confused even inside their own house, unsure of where the bedroom is, or mistaking one doorway for another.
These situations not only cause distress for the person, but also carry real safety risks, especially if they wander outside. Disorientation in time and space also brings other consequences. A person might miss medical appointments, show up on the wrong day, or wait endlessly for someone because they confuse the time. Many families report that their loved ones become restless, impatient, and frustrated when events don't happen according to the timeline they believe in. This problem affects more than safety. It also fuels anxiety, fear, and even depression. When the world around them begins to feel unfamiliar, people with dementia often withdraw, go out less, or require close supervision from family members. Sign 5. Poor judgment. In life, everyone makes mistakes, spending more money than planned, buying something unnecessary, or forgetting to lock the door when in a rush. But for those in the early stages of dementia, impaired judgment isn't just an occasional error.
It reflects a deeper, systemic change in the way they assess situations and make decisions. One of the clearest signs appears in financial matters. A person with dementia may spend money recklessly, purchase expensive items they don't need, or easily fall victim to phone or email scams, things they once had the sharpness to avoid. Some may suddenly become unusually generous, giving money to strangers or donating excessively to the point of jeopardizing their financial security. Others may swing the opposite way, becoming extremely suspicious, no longer trusting banks or financial advisors they had relied on for years. Judgment in everyday life is also affected. They might leave the stove on without realizing it, forget to lock the door when leaving the house, or continue driving even though their reflexes and awareness are no longer safe. Some neglect personal hygiene, wearing clothes unsuited to the weather, going days without bathing, or ignoring obvious health symptoms. This creates significant challenges for families, as the person often resists acknowledging the problem. They may react negatively to feedback, insisting they are still in control, even while their behavior clearly shows otherwise. Sign 6. Misplacing things in unusual places. All of us have misplaced items from time to time, but for someone in the early stages of dementia, putting things in strange, illogical places happens more often and becomes harder and harder to control.
The key difference is in the irrationality. A person might put milk in the pantry instead of the refrigerator, leave their wallet in the medicine cabinet, or even place their phone in the freezer. When they go back to look for it, they have no memory of doing so and can't retrace their steps to find the missing item. This is the result of short-term memory disruption and impaired information processing. Worse, misplaced belongings often lead to misunderstandings and tension within the family. Because they don't remember where they left something, the person may suspect that someone else took it. These unfounded accusations create stress and constrain relationships, leaving both the individual and their loved ones feeling unsettled, even in their own home. In the early stages, the misplaced items may just be small things like the TV remote or a pair of reading glasses. But as the condition progresses, the missing objects can be far more important and even dangerous, such as medications, personal documents, or kitchen knives. This doesn't just cause inconvenience, it can pose real safety risks for the entire household. To support someone living with dementia, families can take practical steps such as keeping the home uncluttered, designating fixed spots for essential items, labeling cabinets and shelves, or using tracking devices for keys and phones. Still, these strategies only help to a certain extent, because once logical thinking declines, it becomes difficult for the person to follow new routines consistently.
One of the most noticeable changes families often observe in a loved one with dementia is a shift in mood and behavior. These are not the ordinary ups and downs of daily life, but persistent changes that slowly turn the person into what feels like a different version of themselves. At first, the changes may seem subtle. Someone who used to be cheerful and outgoing becomes irritable over small matters. A once patient person grows short-tempered and easily frustrated, or someone who once loved to chat suddenly becomes quiet and withdrawn. Along with this, negative emotions like anxiety, depression, or suspicion toward others begin to surface more often, sometimes without any clear reason. Another common trait is apathy, a loss of interest in life. The person may no longer care about old hobbies, show little desire to attend family or social gatherings, or simply lack the motivation to start any activity at all. This not only causes withdrawal, but also accelerates cognitive decline, since the brain and spirit are no longer being stimulated socially or mentally. What's more concerning is that some people begin to display behaviors they never had before. They might say things that are socially inappropriate, become excessively suspicious, or develop repetitive habits they didn't have in the past. To family members, these changes can be painful and difficult to accept because the loved one they once knew and cherished now seems so different. Sign 8. Withdrawal from social activities. This isn't just about an older person choosing to stay home and rest. It's an unusual, ongoing withdrawal that pulls them away from the very activities that once brought them joy.
They may start refusing family gatherings, stop attending church, or abandon long-time hobbies like playing chess, reading, or gardening. Often, this is because memory and language struggles make socializing confusing and embarrassing. For example, when they can't remember someone's name or can't keep up with a conversation, they may choose to avoid the situation rather than face the discomfort. This retreat is sometimes driven by anxiety or depression, both of which often accompany dementia. When people no longer feel in control of situations, they lose confidence, leading to greater avoidance of social contact. Over time, their social circle shrinks, and this isolation itself accelerates the decline in cognitive health. Family members are often the first to notice this change. Someone who once was lively suddenly becomes unusually quiet. A grandparent who used to love playing with the grandchildren now prefers sitting alone in the corner, speaking very little. These small changes, if overlooked, can gradually grow into a widening gap between the person and their loved ones. It's important to remember that withdrawal is not simply a personality change. It can be an early warning sign of dementia. To help, families can gently encourage participation in light, low-pressure activities like taking a walk together, joining a small group, or having one-on-one conversations. At the same time, consulting a doctor to evaluate possible depression or anxiety is equally important. Sign 9. Changes in sleep patterns. Another early sign that's often dismissed yet deeply impacts brain health is disrupted sleep.
Everyone has a restless night now and then. But in those developing dementia, sleep problems are frequent, persistent, and tend to worsen over time. The person may struggle to fall asleep, lying awake in bed for hours without being able to drift off. Others may wake up several times during the night and find it difficult to get back to sleep. Some experience a complete reversal of their sleep-wake cycle, sleeping during the day but staying awake all night, causing serious disruption not only for themselves but also for their caregivers. In addition, unusual sleep behaviors may appear, such as vivid nightmares, talking in their sleep, or frequent movements of the arms and legs during rest. All of these can be linked to changes happening in the brain. The consequences of poor sleep go far beyond daytime fatigue. Research shows that lack of sleep increases the buildup of toxic proteins in the brain, which are directly linked to Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. People often experience poor concentration, faster memory decline, irritability, and anxiety. Everyday accidents, like falls or small household mishaps, also become more likely when the body is constantly exhausted. Families are often directly affected as well. When the person with dementia wanders, wakes up, or becomes confused at night, caregivers are unable to get proper rest. Over time, this creates stress and burnout for both the patient and their loved ones. The good news is that certain strategies can help improve sleep quality. Establishing a consistent bedtime routine, creating a quiet environment, reducing blue light from TVs or phones before bed, and limiting caffeine and alcohol can all make a difference. In more severe cases, doctors may recommend specialized guidance or prescribe sleep-supporting medications. The final early sign you should never ignore is trouble with vision and spatial awareness. This is often mistaken for an eye problem, but in reality, it has more to do with how the brain processes visual information. In the early stages of dementia, people may struggle with depth perception and spatial orientation. For example, going up or down stairs may feel dangerous. They may stumble stepping off a curb or have difficulty judging distances while driving and parking. This isn't caused by poor eyesight, it's the brain's declining ability to accurately interpret signals from the eyes. Reading and following lines of text can also become more difficult. Someone who once read the newspaper every morning may begin to skip lines, reread the same passage, or feel as though the page looks jumbled. Even handling familiar documents can become challenging. People may also confuse colors or contrasts, making it harder to choose appropriate clothing or locate objects around the house. Some even experience misrecognition in the mirror, seeing their own reflection but believing it to be a stranger. This not only causes confusion, but can also trigger fear and anxiety. These changes don't just reduce quality of life, they also raise the risk of accidents. Falls, driving mishaps, or failure to notice hazards in the environment all become more likely as visual and spatial processing declines. Families can help by improving the living environment, increasing lighting in the home, using contrasting colors to make objects easier to identify, and clearing pathways to reduce tripping hazards. At the same time, seeing both a neurologist and an eye specialist is important to pinpoint the true cause and avoid mistaking these issues for simple eye disease. We've now explored 10 early signs of dementia that you should never ignore. From what may seem like small issues, such as frequent forgetfulness or difficulty finding words, to bigger changes like disorientation, poor judgment, or withdrawal from social life. Each of these is a warning signal the brain is sending to you and your family. The key thing I want you to remember is this: dementia doesn't appear overnight. It develops quietly, step by step. But that's also why early detection can change the entire course of the condition. Timely medical care, adopting a healthier lifestyle, getting the right nutrition, staying physically active, and keeping a positive outlook – all of these can help slow progression, extend independence, and preserve quality of life. If you've been watching this video and recognize one or more of these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't ignore them.
Don't simply brush them off as just aging. Instead, treat them as an opportunity for early evaluation so you and your family have more time to prepare and choose the best path forward. A doctor's appointment may bring peace of mind, or, if necessary, help you begin treatment early, something that can make a world of difference. And remember, brain health isn't something to care for only after symptoms appear. Daily habits like exercising, eating plenty of leafy greens, fatty fish and berries, staying socially connected, keeping your mind active through reading or learning new skills, and getting quality sleep, all of these act as a protective shield for your memory in the long run. Now I have an invitation for you. Leave a comment below and share. Out of the 10 signs we discussed today, have you or a loved one noticed any of them? Is it more frequent forgetfulness, trouble sleeping, or unusual mood changes? Your story matters, not just for you, but because it may serve as encouragement and a valuable warning for thousands of others watching this video. And if you found today's information helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Every week, we'll share practical health tips designed specifically for people over 60 in the U.S., so you can stay healthy, sharp, and independent for years to come.